Good evening. I'd like to call to order at 6:01 the Parks and Recreation Committee meeting. I'm Terry Reeves. I'm the chair of the Parks and Recreation. Steve Horniak is supposed to be here. He's not here as of yet, but he is supposed to be in attendance. And the third member of council that is on our committee is Mr. Drake. As you can see, all council people are here, along with the mayor. We have our city administrator, Joe Major. We have our two police chiefs. We have Tim Borton, Parks and Recreation Commissioner, and we also have Nick Roman, who is our finance director. So the purpose of this meeting is to discuss moving forward or discussing Boomfest. And I'm just going to start with Joel or the mayor. We're going to start with the Mayor Safarian.
Thank you, Chairman Reeves. And Council, I'm gonna start by initiating what Boomfest is and some of the costs associated with pulling off this event. Boomfest consists of a fireworks display show, a concert, arts and crafts show, and other activities that are part of the production. This year, I've worked recently with the Chamber of Commerce, and the Chamber of Commerce is a partner in this because they run the arts and crafts show. They want to expand their horizons with Boomfest, and they said they'd like to either get a 3 or 5 year contract where they run and operate the fireworks display and the arts and crafts show, and they may add, as years go on, other facets to be a fundraising event for themselves. So I mentioned before, the fireworks display show last year cost us $22,000, and Zambelli, the provider of service, had told us there was a 10% increase, so it's roughly a little over $24,000. The chamber would take on sponsors. They have, I believe, 3 at this time that cover most of the cost of that, and so we got to work out some. They're going to work out some details with that, but I will meet with them tomorrow, and by Friday they said they would be able to come back with how they could proceed with running that aspect of the show, as well as the arts and crafts part of Boomfest. So that leaves the city, the folks that would be handling the concert portion of it, and we got some details of the cost of what our cost would be, and it's roughly $107,000 if you count all the acts, the headliner, the stage, the sound and lights, other services provided to bring a headliner here, and other costs that we entail from past years. We added them all up, and Nick has a number. I think it was just shy of $107,000, is it not?
That's correct.
All right. So, in knowing that we have to come up with that cost, we started with the $30,000 contribution, the $12,000 amount that was left over from last year. So we started with $42,000. From sponsors, and I'll list 5 of them: Synovus, PBF Energy, EnviroSafe, West Equipment, and Rudolph Libby. The combination of those 5 is a commitment of $43,500. If you add that to the $42,000, that takes us to $85,500. Food trucks that come in pay a fee, and we collected, I think, $3,500 last year, $3,600. I conservatively put in $3,000, and that took our revenues up to $88,500. Our alcohol sales, our share of the profits was just shy of $9,000. I put the number 8,000 in, bringing us to 96,500. This year, with our provider of service to sell alcohol was Project IM. They banded and checked IDs and sold the alcohol. They said they had the capabilities of collecting a gate fee, something that would be hard for us to do. If we charged $5 a person to enter and took a conservative estimate of 4,000 people, that was a $20,000 revenue source, bringing our total to $116,500. I will contend, if it was a bad weather day, it might be hard to achieve that. For alcohol sales, the 8,000 and the 20,000. But nevertheless, it would have to be almost $10,000 off of that to get below our $107,000 threshold to pull off the event. We have other donations that people have made somewhat of a commitment. And I'll name a few that we got from before: St. Charles Hospital, Walleye Power, the Oregon Growth Corp, the trades. And they haven't come back with actual commitments, so I didn't include them, as well as some other private donations, which I believe could really come in at nearly $5,000 or so, giving us another cushion so that we still don't enter into the going over the $30,000 or the $42,000 we started the year with. So I believe we can pull this event off and meet the financial commitment by raising these funds. Not 100% guarantee, because once again, we don't know how many people will come. We won't know if a $5 cost will defer people from coming, because we have no experience at this. But I did attend the Polish picnic, where the fees were $10 to get in, and it didn't seem like people were really complaining to pay that fee. And we provide a lot more activities at Boomfest than they have there. I'm not knocking anything they did there. I think people were very happy there, but they seemed to be happy paying the $10 too. So to collect half of that and offer more, I'm hoping that it doesn't defer people from wanting to still stop by. Put a lot of thought and effort in this. Tried to create an atmosphere that for you as council people would have some actual comfort in being able to appropriate the funds to continue. We don't always know by how they run their fiscal year or how they run their quarters when some of these contributions would come in. Synovus, for example, last year paid in August. Nick has reminded me, one of the years they paid in November. Sometimes they paid in June. Depends on how their bookwork goes. At West Equipment, is very quick. I could probably drive over there and pick up a check today. PBF Energy, once again, comes in when it's appropriate for their bookkeeping. We've never had any of those contributors not deliver. So I believe the funding is there. Is it 100% guaranteed? It is not. I don't want to try to deceive anyone. I don't want to deceive them of costs. We do have other costs that were discussed before in police and fire department overtime. Some streets workers work on shift, some, I don't think we worked any of them at overtime rate because they were during the shift when they helped last year. Not to say that it couldn't, but I believed we were between $11,000 and $13,000 in costs if you wanted to take the high side, 13,000. Don't want to deceive anybody to run an event like this or any other things, activity that go on in the city. We do provide a lot of services in the safety forces and sometimes in cleanup in our streets maintenance department. I want to start with that and see if anybody has questions. I don't know if, Joel, you want to add anything to that. But to start with, and we can get into discussion, that when the questions come up. So
we'll move on to see if, Mr. Major, do you have anything to add?
We can start here.
Start discussion and try to answer any concerns or.
Council, do we have any questions as of right now that you would like to ask? Or see where things are, going in your mind or our minds? Mr. Drake?
Yeah, I got a few things written down here. I guess I don't do Facebook for whatever reason. I'm just not real good with computers. But I did have a lot of phone calls on this. And, it sounds to me like most of the citizens I talked to, some of them I don't even know who they were or where they live. It doesn't matter. Most of them just said that, why does there have to be a headliner? Because that's the biggest cost. And, I said, I have no idea. I've never been a part of it, so I have no idea. And, a lot of people, based on, from what I heard from other people, they said, if you got to scale back, you got to scale back. It's like at one time I wanted a Cadillac Escalade, and my wife wouldn't let me get it because it was out of our budget. So, there comes a time when, I always wanted a moped when I was a kid. I didn't get a moped. I still never had a moped. But, it's just one of those things that, I have nothing against Boomfest. I think I've been to it once or twice. It's a good time when I was there. And like I said, and I remember last year dealing with this. It was like people younger than me, they were all for it. You better vote for it. You better vote for it to approve the money. Then I had the other side, the people that were older than me, saying the exact opposite. I like to get a feel from the citizens. Unfortunately, I can't ask all 20,000 people, but I like to get a feel on what their thoughts are. So it's like 50-50. It's like umpiring. You're in the bottom of the seventh inning and there's a bang-bang play at the plate and the game's tied up. Guess what? You got to make a decision. It's either out or safe. One team's going to love you, the other team's going to hate you. But, my thing is I'm all about it. People called, they said, well, I guess they're asking for another at least $60,000, whatever that is. And I know you explained it. And I read the article in the newspaper, or I seen it on Channel 11 News, I think about 5 or 6 times it was on. And, I know costs go up, but heck, everything's went up. There's nothing cheap now. It don't matter where you go, what you buy, what you eat. Things are high now. And it's like, is it, I guess, the bottom line is, and this is, I think, the biggest question that I heard from people, why does there have to be a headliner when, and I haven't done the research on it, but I was told by numerous people that there's not one person in that band that is an original member. And I'm not saying that has to, I'm sure they sing the same songs, however that works. I don't know. They're probably copyrighted and somebody owns them. But it's like, basically, it's a cover band that is running on a big name that can do the same thing as a local band like an Arctic Clam or Noisy Neighbors or, whoever it may be. It could be Buddy Graham and the Two Tones or Paul Drake and the Home Wreckers. you know, I don't know, but that's the biggest thing I have, and I'm a big believer. I know it's fun. When I went, I had a good time. I'm not a fan of the heat anymore. The heat is not good to me, and I just think it would be a good thing to just scale back on, you know, whatever and anything that could be scaled back on. And, you know, and I don't know if there's a guarantee with this money. I don't know if it was the article or it was on the news that, you know, a lot of the businesses or whoever, you know, don't pay until the end of the year. Well, there's a lot of variables to the end of the year from now till the end of the year. And then the other thing, how many businesses in Oregon have been contacted to make a donation? And I've even had a couple citizens say, you know, we get a reminder or a bill every month for whenever the water bill comes out. I don't know. My wife takes care of that. But it's like, even individual donations. I had a couple of people say, heck, you know, my wife and I'd be willing to throw 30, 40 bucks in a till or whatever. And I'm like, that I don't know. I mean, I kind of like the fact that, you know, it is a free event. I respect that part. You know, for a big family or however you would do it, I'm not exactly sure. I know you mentioned something about $5, but, you know, I think it's a good event. I'm not against it by no means. I just think if it needs to be scaled back, and especially with the headliner, and, you know, I mean, even the stage setup, you got the stage setup. I don't know who sets the stage up. I don't want to offend whoever you're thinking about having, but I was a member for years for the International Theatrical Stage Employees, which is Local 24, which is in Toledo, and we fall under the umbrella of like Detroit, Cleveland, Columbus, and, you know, they have access to like the Huntington Center, the Peristyle, the zoo concerts, and, you know, I don't know if that's at a union rate. You know, this area is a heavy union town, and, you know, I don't know if you plan on going through that. You got electricians. You know, there's a lot that goes to it, and I think a lot of it has to do with the headliner. And I remember before, years ago, when I worked at the city, seeing a sheet of the needs that the bands want. They want like Dasani water with cherry juice in it. They want Pop-Tarts with silver flakes on it, or all kinds of crazy stuff. And I'm thinking, you know, if it's in their contract, just give them an extra $300 and say, hell, go to Aldi's or Kroger's and buy whatever you want. I mean, it's, you know, somebody here who's ever working would go to the store and buy it. I forget who it was. I wouldn't say their name anyways. But like I said, I'm all for it. So I just, to spend a lot more money on it, I think is crazy. That's just my opinion. I'm one of 7. And that's about all I have to say for now. And if something else comes up, Mr. President, I'm sure I'll bring it up. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Drake. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Chairman. And I'll try to address all those concerns. Number one is, I totally agree. If we didn't believe we had the funds to cover a headliner, scaling back is an option, or cancellation is an option. When I went over the figures, I believe these are all reasonable estimations of income and the ability to draw the more than the $107,000 we need to pull off the production. And Wayne Nelson, although he is not one of the most original members of the Little River Band, he was early on a member, and he heads up the group. It is traditional for members to change, especially the different musicians as guitar players, drummers, or whatever, do change with bands, especially when they have a 40-year career. The Little River Band, Joel and I looked up anywhere in the current tour schedule, and we couldn't find any of the events where tickets for one person was less than $66. $67 was the lowest price for one person to see the show. And you are correct, we have some great local musicians, and we have 3 of them scheduled to play at Boomfest this year, and they are all very good. They themselves love the fact of playing with a headliner. Any of these artists that we have, as well as other local artists in the area, you can go to some of the clubs around here at any given weekend and walk up and see them. But it's a specialty to see a headlining act, especially someone with as long of stay in the business as the Little River Band or some of the other headliners we had. So people do find that to be a real big deal in their hometown, to go up and get very close to seeing the actual artist perform that they hear on the radio all the time. As for stages in the area, we use what's called the Stage Line 320. It's a very large stage. There are few around. It takes usually about a year to book them in advance. Locally, you won't even find them around in the area. But so it is a very scheduled thing to get something like that. But it makes it look like an authentic production when you see the lights and the displays and the true act of a big concert in your own backyard. I do believe the thing you said about living within one's means, we do. We are trying to do that, and I believe we can do that. Can I 100% guarantee? There's not much in life that is 100% guarantee, but I think we can come very close to saying, I believe we can pull this off without going deeper into the city budget. I hope I answered all those questions that came up. If not, redirect them to me, because I will certainly try.
Thank you, Mayor. Council, anybody else? Mr. Salander?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just had one question, really. I printed it off and I forgot to bring it with me, but I was checking out Little River Band's website, and on their dates, their show dates, they have us down on their calendar showing they're already on there. So I know you had said last time that no deposits had been put down or anything there. Have any contracts or any agreements been made with them for the show? Because I don't know how somebody like that would put us on the calendar without some sort of promise, guarantee, whatever it may be. So I'm just kind of curious, how in the heck did you pull that off?
I do have an answer for that. And no contracts have been signed. No money has changed hands. I personally know Wayne Nelson, called him direct, and I said I'd like to see them perform. He contacted me with his agent, and we talked for a long time. Wayne called me back. He said, well, I believe that you have a good chance to pull it off. I'll put you on our schedule. It may help you. So that's how. We did have them perform in 2015, and that's where I became associated personally with him.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Sandler, anything?
Nope, that's it.
Thank you.
I'm impressed with that.
Council, any further discussion?
Mr. President,
Mrs. Pauloff.
so I think I've missed one Boomfest, and that was when my husband was in the hospital. And, okay, we're all talking about headliners and stuff, and I understand everyone's concern. There's a lot more to Boomfest than just the music. We have some really great vendors in our area that come to it. The vendors love it, and there's quite a few that want in on it. So I think it's a very important important community event that's been going on for several years. And it's nothing that should be divisive, it's nothing that should be, have any negative to it, because it's a community event, and it's always been set as a community event from its first one. So I myself, do we need a headliner? If we can't afford a headliner, then we don't get a headliner. There are a lot of good bands that are local that we can decide on. And if we got a local band, then how much more money would we need? Probably none. I myself like that it's a free event because it's a chance for the community to get together and they don't have to reach into their pocket to get in. And when you say, well, we're going to charge the citizens nothing, but those outside the city, we're going to charge them, well, what about the people that work in Oregon but live outside, and their tax dollars are going to support Oregon with their income tax? So that's why I think it should remain a free event. But if we can't afford a headliner, I really do think that we should really look at what our options are in the community. There's a lot of great cover bands. There's a lot of great, even having like a battle of the bands where they want to come in. You know, you're giving them a competition, and instead of paying somebody $50,000, you're giving $5,000 to win a contest. Then you're going to get a lot of people. They're going to want to come in. So there are a lot of options to this, but this is something that should not be canceled, because I really do think that it is a great community event. And sometimes I don't see friends until I see them at Boomfest. And friends I've been lifelong friends with, I see them once a year, and that's the event that I see them at. So, you know, it's a good community event. There's more than just the bands, just the other stuff alone, the food trucks, the vendors, all that comes together, and the hard work from people from the rec and from the streets department and the police and fire. Everyone comes together and works really hard for this event. So whatever needs to be done to match it. And I mean, I myself wouldn't even mind giving towards it. If that's appropriate, Melissa, would that be something appropriate? Could I contribute to it, put a contribution to it as a councilwoman? And you know, it's questions like that. We should look at it at a community standpoint, something that we need to make sure it gets done, and that we have every year. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Paul. Mr.
Chairman,
Mayor?
One of the things comes up that I remembered a question Paul Drake had when he mentioned that some people liked different performers, some people didn't. Well, I will go on to, we built a pickleball court out there. We got nearly $1 million in that pickleball court, and I'm going to guess it stays busy quite a bit. But you get a lot of return folks that come there, maybe 1,500 people, different people use it repetitively. But we build a pickleball court because some people like pickleball. We built the ball diamonds. Some people play on the ball, the soccer fields for a different option. We have the splash pad out there. We have a press box. We literally put that one year $3 million almost into that rec complex. And any one of those things, I can say, I don't particularly think was a great investment, but as a whole, they all work. And I wouldn't critique any one of them, because to make our rec program, we have to have a little bit of variety out there. And so that $3 million investment does have a return, because it overall, that whole rec complex does appeal to just about everybody. That's why we have 4 different bands scheduled. Each of them have a little bit different flair, and it's possible that someone could come and not enjoy any of them, but I think that's highly unlikely. So we do have the variety out there. And I tell you, you guys may get calls about Boomfest or see things on Facebook. Wherever I go, I get addressed directly, and it's all the time. a lot of people think the headliner is important. I think those who attend, a lot of them attend because of the headliner. That's the feedback I get. When I pick a headliner, I happen to like a lot of the songs the Little River Band played. I liked a lot of them that Steve O'Geary played his Journey. Eddie Money. I liked a lot of the artists, but I do not pick them because it's a Mike Safarian love fest for the artist that's there. And my wife will tell you, I sit in a chair for hours and I go through their music and I think of all the people and the age group of the people that attend Boomfest, I say is roughly 12 to 14 to 85 years old. And I try to get a group of folks out there that can make as many of them happy as possible. And I think it's working because it's hard to find people that aren't having a good time there. And
Thank
that's
you,
what
Mayor.
it's all about to me.
Thank you. Mr. Horniak, I know you're part of our committee. Do you have anything to add?
I do, and my apologies for being late. Unfortunately, I found one of our trains on the way in. Boomfest is something, as a community event, as Mrs. Pollock talked about that, I think it's important to have. I think as Boomfest started, it was Boomfest because we were doing fireworks and it was part of our 4th of July celebration. And we always looked at that and we've migrated away from that to where it's a city event as opposed to a 4th of July event. I personally like the idea better of a 4th of July event or something closer to that. I think a lot of people do. The bands, the car shows, the vendors that show up, the food trucks that there, I know people enjoy that all the time. I hear that from people. They enjoy the event. They enjoy the activity of it. The expenditure of it is always the part that is curious and questionable to any of us who sit up here who are in charge of the city's budget and how we allocate and spend those funds, making sure we try to do that in the wisest fashion. What I would say, in my thoughts or my opinion only, we did allocate some funds. We had a meeting back at the end of April, which I think was April 28th, where we had a joint committee meeting where we talked about Boomfest. And I thought the discussion at that time was if we can't afford the headliner, we need to move ahead with local bands. So I'm not sure when the headliner came back in, so I'm curious about that. Because my recollection of that April 28th meeting was exiting saying if the funds aren't there, we need to look at local talent as opposed to that, which would allow us to stay on the stage. That said, what I would say is this. My concerns about Boomfest really have nothing to do with whether it's a city investment, private investment, whether it's a headliner, whether it's local bands, what we do, how we do that. A community event, I believe, is well worthwhile. I think the citizens of Oregons deserve that. My concern and my challenge is, by my math, we are about 7 weeks away from event day. And we're still talking about, do we have the money to do this? Why in January did we not know this? For anybody who doesn't know, I put on a lot of events, some small, some large. I have an event the first weekend or first couple of days in August. I signed my contract for the venue, the hotel rooms, the meeting spaces, the meals in January and felt I was way behind the 8 ball in the planning process. That was 7 months before the event. I see news reports this week, is Boomfest going to happen or is it not going to happen? And we are less than 2 months away from the date of the event. Why were we not prepared for this in January or February when we allocated it in the 2025 budget? Those funds that were there were rollover funds that were left from the previous year. We knew exactly what that was. Why are we just now trying to figure out, are we going to do Boomfest? And that's my disappointment for our community because they deserve an event. And if this is the event we want to give, then this is the event we should give them. But why are we still wondering, can we do this on June 18th? And we're now looking at, should we allocate more money to supporting this in lieu of donations coming in or timely donations coming in. If it was going to cost us $90,000, we should have known that in January or February. And we could have had that proper discussion and we could have vetted that out. But I clearly remember on April 28th, the conversation being, if we don't have the funds for a headliner, we need to drop off the headliner. And where else we can save to put this event back around the $90,000 or $100,000 mark. And with the fireworks and all, and whether that comes out of the Chamber of Commerce or whether it comes out of the city, by my recollection, we're back around 130 or 140 for this. So my concern is, why are we still talking about what are we going to do, and if we're going to do it, we should have had this done in January or February. That's my concern. We've done an injustice to the citizens because we don't know that. And we can't tell them, yes, we're having Boomfest, and yes, it's gonna be on this day, and yes, this is what it's gonna look like.
Thank you, Mr. Horniak.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Thank you. It's difficult in the public sector to get the money and how we have to ask for it. I used the word solicit before, but we do not solicit the money. We present a case and hope the volunteers come, because it's awkward for us in the city position to go out and ask people for money. And it's an awful thing. It's hard for me to do. It's one of the hardest things I do to try to attract this money. So in the past, we've appropriated funds with the understanding we believed we would get it, and council have done it before. There's been more critiquing of the expenditures and making sure, and just wasn't able to solidify the fact that we had what I believe is the source to collect $116,000 now. It took a long time to come to that point. And when I believed that we achieved that ability, being that, once again, I spoke with Wayne Nelson, and he was able to hold us out for that day. The people that run the stage, I have a working relationship with, who held that stage for us for that time without a deposit, as well as the sound and light people. These are people that I've dealt with for a lot of years and developed a good relationship with. So took advantage of them a little bit to string them out, but they were grateful for the business we did with them in the past, as well as Zambelli with the fireworks. So yeah, it takes time. I couldn't come before you and say, hey, I think we could have a headliner, until I truly believed that we have funds in order to do that. And that's why it's here. I just think it makes it a better event. If it took longer, poor Nick Roman, he put him almost in a stroke position, worrying about it, and I know it tantalizes him daily, you know, and when we go through these numbers and the stress that's involved, the auditors coming in and going over our numbers. We do it. We do it to try to pull off an event that most cities can't do.
Understand, but let me ask a follow-up to that. We don't have the money for a headliner today. As we sit here today, you do not have committed funds to pay for a headliner. Am I accurate or inaccurate in that statement?
You're not accurate, you're not inaccurate. We have a pledge for 43,500. We have 42. That makes 85.5. To believe that we could get $8,000 in alcohol sales is not a guarantee, but it is something we have achieved greater than that last year. So that puts us at 96.5 with a $5 gate fee and taking a conservative estimate of 4,000 people, which we had well in excess of that last year, is $20,000. That puts us at $116,500. That is approximately $9,500 more than we need to achieve the event. Is it a guarantee? No, it is not. Not much in life is a guarantee, but it is a valid estimate of what a person that has experience in this would say is close to reality of what we would achieve.
And the
Lot of
headliner
things-
cost is 50,000?
What's that?
Little River Band, the headliner is 50,000 plus
$50,000.
stage cost.
That $50,000, yes. They wanted 60, huh?
What is the stage cost? Because it requires a certain stage for a
Stage cost
headliner.
is $12,000.
So 62,000, give or take,
Yeah,
for headliner and stage requirement
Yeah.
for the headliner.
all right, yes.
And that's the lighting
The
Rollins,
lighting,
Zach asked.
lighting, sound, 24,000.
for lighting sound? Okay. Some of which, even if you did local bands, you have to have a stage, you're gonna need sound, you're gonna need those
Like
things.
you said.
What is the difference if we did it with just local bands? What is the cost for that?
The
Any
cost,
idea?
it would be probably $55,000 less.
So the cost of the band and 5,000 in savings on the
Yeah.
size of stage, light show, et cetera.
Whatever, and maybe a little more, if you could scale stuff back.
Mm-hmm.
But what I was getting at is, if we were scaling it back, we don't have the money in hand, you're 100% right, but to project that I believe we can collect $116,000 or will, I think is very close to reality. And that's why I'm here before you, to see if I can get you to see that as a possible reality, to take that risk and approve it.
Just one more follow-up question, Mr. Chair, if I may.
Yes.
In years past, so this is the first time, obviously, we've considered a gate, but it's the first time I've heard us talking about revenues from alcohol sales. Is that typically factored into our overall cost for Boomfest in the past few years?
It's almost always been. There's two ways we've done this. Over at when we were at the Oakshade Grove, most of the years, the folks over at Oakshade Grove had the liquor license, sold the alcohol, and they kept 100% of the profits. And sometimes we even had to complement them with additional funds to use their facility. At the years that we sold the alcohol, they charged us in excess of $10,000 to use the facility. And when we tried to sell the alcohol that year, I think we made $6,000. And so it's a difficult thing to do. And we didn't do a very good job at it because it takes experienced folks. That's why we use the people from Project IM, because they do this type of work, banding people, checking IDs, and selling the alcohol several times, many times a year for years, and all their people are trained and certified, and they do it very efficiently. And we found that the profit that we got from that is better than us trying to do it ourselves with volunteers. Very difficult to come by volunteers, very difficult to come by volunteers that have experience at it. This group is the most experienced group to provide this service that exists around here that I know of. And anybody who would, if you would check into it, wouldn't, I find it hard to believe that they would disagree with that statement. So, they not only do all the work, we turn a profit that we can put back into the event, and they take all the headaches that we would assume if we did it ourselves.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, thank you.
Mr. President, if I, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I'm just gonna close with this, and then I'm done. Sorry, Joel. I hope we can find a way to do Boomfest. I'm disappointed that we're still talking about if we're going to do Boomfest. That would be my largest point with this. I hope we find a way to do it. I hope we find a way to do it with the proposal and the plan that was presented to us for pretty much the entire year. We would be able to fund this with only the 30,000 and the residual from last year being a total of 42 from city funds to be able to do it. That said, I think it's an important community event. I think the community looks forward to it. I know we have a lot of people from outside of our community that come to this particular event. I would go back to, I hope we can make it happen. I hope it doesn't have to be at city cost. But I would pray that for 2026, somewhere in January or February, we know what we're doing and what we have, and we lay that out. And I would like to see us do it closer to the 4th of July as opposed to later in the year. And the only thing I'd finish with is, as I mentioned, I have an event around the same time and felt I was under the gun in January of getting that done. Within 30 days, I had my funding sources committed. In January, I had my funding sources committed. So I knew exactly what my budget for the event could be because of that. We have to start taking this on earlier so we can let our community know what we're doing, what the plan is, and we could deliver something that's first class for our citizens, which is, I believe, what they deserve. And I'll close with that, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Horniak. Mr. Mayor?
And Steve, I respect that. I wish I could do that. In the private sector, you can achieve those things. You have no idea how tight my hands were tied at trying to get those funds secured. I believe we're very close to having them all secured. We worked endlessly at trying to get that in earlier. I started a year ago to try to do this, and it's a way different everything in the public sector. First thing when I became mayor and figured out how to do things, found out how tight your hands are tied, and the different steps you have to go through that in the private sector you do not. This is almost impossible to pull off. What we are doing for the future in town center, Mike Denman has been part of that, and he's going to assist if once they get buildings in and they get operating works there, where they take this event over and we help them, and they can, from the private sector, we have the organization that you know of, you're the president of, the Oregon Growth Corporation. We'd love to have them in. However, we audit the books for the Growth Corp. It wouldn't work. But we'll work to see if we can change rules where we don't do that anymore. The Growth Corp enters with River Rock and their suppliers. And once we get out of the public sector way of doing business and into the private sector, we can achieve the things that you're talking about. Well, I'd love to do that, tried to do that. It is next to impossible. And I talked to other, Ken Filipiak was here when Sandy Garvick retired. They do this in Mentor, and they get a lot of private donations. Paul Rome was here, would say it was $250,000 a year they get in donations, and they have 5 events that they run it through. But those go through private. It's a lot easier. He asked how we do some things to try to refine it. It is not easy, and I learn something every year. We learn stuff when people come in with auditors, what we can do or can't do. If we do make a mistake, we stop doing it and we do it the way they say. But we're only from trying to pull off the impossible.
Thank you.
That's what we're trying to do here.
Mr. Major?
Thank you, Mr. President. And those are all great questions. In fact, when you brought that up, I sent a quick email over to Cassie to get a meeting another Honeyfest meeting scheduled. So, because I know, I understand, yeah, but there has been a lot going on behind the scenes. Obviously, the mayor's got the commitments from the band, the stage, the lighting. Those are the big things, right? Those are the big things. Everything else, and the venue too. The venue. So behind the scenes, all of those are right now verbally committed, but I think at this point, in order to move this forward, what needs to happen is we need to get a commitment of allocation of funds so that we can secure the contracts and then move it forward. Just understanding that then we'll have to get the, the checks in hand from donations after the fact. So that's, it's kind of like a little bit of it is chicken and egg, the alcohol sales, for instance, or the tickets, if you're, selling $5 a ticket. I know, I think everybody wants it to be a free event, but in order to make it work this way, it would have to be a $5 charge at the gate to get to an estimated $20,000 number. So, but the alcohol sales, what was the other one? The food trucks.
food trucks.
Yeah, the food trucks. And then hopefully we get some of the smaller donations trickling into thereafter. But that's the tricky part, is balancing, getting the commitment and then saying we have some pretty firm, in my opinion, firm commitments from businesses that want to donate to the event that historically have. So I think we're at that point now where that confidence level is up. Yep, Mayor's right, there's no guarantee, but the confidence level is high that we believe that we can get the maybe even more donations than what we'll need to put on the event. So along with the revenues that would be generated from those other sources. So that's all I wanted to point out, that it is kind of a chicken and egg, but what would need to happen going forward is a commitment and an allocate from council by way of ordinance for an allocation of funds for the event, so that we can lock in the contracts, and of course approval of whatever contracts are needed to move forward, and that's it, and then it can move forward, and then we can always keep everybody apprised of when donations come in, and the amounts and everything else, and keep everybody updated on our tracking of it. So that's all I have.
Thank you,
I
Mr.
do have
My, just very quickly, my expectation is you're planning to have this on Monday night's agenda to be voted?
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, depending on what happens here tonight, if everybody's a solid no, then, it's kind
We
of.
got, there's one thing I'd like to add to
Yes.
that, is that we spend an enormous amount of time with the folks from Upterra with the data center, both Will Turner and John Martin had said the end user of the data center, he said, you pull this event off, he goes, next year you won't have to worry about funding. He said, because the end user that is there is all in on this. They just can't now. So it's a big deal to them. This is a big event for them. They would like to be more a part of it, but their hands are tied to how they can be part of it when they're still got business going on. He said, but I think the end users, it could end up being they run this event. Or they at least fund it,
Thank you.
like 100%.
Mr. Wallenbeck, do you have something to add?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. A couple things. I'm getting consensus that nobody here wants to cancel it. So cancellation of Boomfest really should be off the table, because I think all of us sitting here at this dais thinks some type of event needs to occur for our residents. So I would take that out of our vocabulary at this point in time, because everybody here wants to have an event. Based on the numbers that you're providing, are you looking at us trying to allocate an additional $74,000? That's what we would have to get above the 42 that's budgeted.
Mr. Chair, if I could answer that.
Yes.
So, we appropriated 71,000 in the fund. That's 42,000 of the city funds, so the 12,000 that was in it, 30,000 that was transferred into it. We budget that we would bring in a minimum of 30,000 donations. That's how we were able to come up with the $71,000 number. So in order to get up to the 107, which I would actually prefer, if we are gonna go forward with it, that we would actually give us a little bit of wiggle room and appropriate up to 110. So we would be adding 39,000 in appropriation in the fund.
So roughly 40 additional thousand.
Correct, but that wouldn't necessarily mean it's city dollars. That is based on donations, revenues coming in. In order for me to feel comfortable as a finance director doing that, I would be asking that we do appropriate $20,000 out of the general fund in case those revenues do not come in.
Because that's what's one thing I was gonna say. Right now, we're banking on $31,000 in revenues coming in.
Correct.
Which we could be out if a rain event happens.
Correct.
And a lot of those monies, if you rent a stage, book a band, and there's a rain event, we're out those monies.
And that is one thing I am
You know,
looking
so-
into as well. I have an application that's ready to be sent in once we know what the event's gonna cost to see what we can get in, what type of insurance we can get.
Sure.
I think, Beth, you had mentioned it a couple times with the rain events, it has to be over an inch of rain, so I don't think it would necessarily be worth it for us to do it, but I am looking into it and I will get a number on what that insurance costs. But yeah, sorry.
All right, so an additional 40. My other question I have with Project IM, if they're gonna work the gate to collect $5 per gate, I've never worked with any contractor that's not gonna take a cut. Are they willing to do that for free?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
they do get a cut of the alcohol sales. They are not going to charge an additional amount to collect that money.
Okay, are they just gonna take a
So
larger amount
last
of
year,
the
last year they
alcohol
made
sales?
last year they made about $10,000 in their share of the alcohol sales.
Okay, are they gonna take a larger cut of the
No.
alcohol sales?
No.
So they're gonna take it for nothing? That's, I'm just trying to figure
Yeah,
out if
yes.
there's monies that would come off of that.
No,
Okay,
no, I asked that question to, that to them is they have those people there anyway. It's not a big deal. They're happy with being part of the event and the money they make, and that keeps their folks moving. And like I said, a $10,000. If it's a great day, maybe they sell more and they make $12,000. But no, that was the goodness of that group. They're not only efficient, they deliver the products at a timely pace. They know what they're doing.
okay, thank you. And can I continue with Nick real quick and ask
Sure.
you a question? So Nick, what you're looking for from this council is an appropriation out of city funds of an additional 20,000.
That's what I would ask if we are going to appropriate the money in the fund. I have to be able to confirm that we have revenues coming in to be able to appropriate the funds in the community events fund that this is paid for out of. And without having some sort of backup to these estimates that we have for beer sales and the gate fee sales, I need to know that somehow we're gonna get the revenue in to that fund to be able to pay for it.
So right now, we have 71,000 allocated.
Correct.
An additional 20 gets us up to 91,000, which is short of the 107 to $130,000, which this event is gonna cost.
Yeah.
So the fireworks and stuff are
We're
gonna
only
be
go up to
deal-
110.
110, because the fireworks and stuff are going to be handled someplace else.
They're not in our hands.
Yeah. So how
I
do
bu-
we,
I believe that these donations will be coming in higher than what what the number the mayor is using currently. And that's where, obviously, I would prefer if we use a higher number than 20,000. I just know that that's not something that we want to put those city funds on the line, and that's been a topic of discussion. I would prefer,
and then do we have to appropriate a higher number once donations would come in at a higher level for us to spend those monies on Boomfest?
no, because it's all based on what are estimated to bring in, what we have, what's committed to bring in. We would, if we went up to the 110, that is the expected expenses, we wouldn't need to appropriate any additional funds after that. We would be limited to spending up to $110,000.
unless you came and asked us for additional.
Unless we can, which, sorry, Mayor, but I would not like us doing that.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wallenczak.
Mr. Chair,
Mrs. Paulo?
so do we have any local bands already committed, and how much do they cost? And can you name them, please?
We do. The Grape Smugglers, I believe it's 1,500, or the Clam is 1,500, and Chris Shutters is 3,000.
It's not bad. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Paulo.
Chris Shutters could be, it could be 3,500.
Thank you. I know that we had a couple of citizens that have signed in.
Mr. President,
Yes.
excuse me. I didn't have the opportunity.
Oh, I figured you would have interrupted if you were,
Oh, thank you for
so
that.
go right ahead,
Yeah,
Mrs.
well,
Zak.
sorry, I'll be more rude next time, I promise.
No, you don't have to.
I just, I know that's usually, I'm a big mouth, I'll speak up, so I was taking in everybody's comments, and I agree. I think I don't know where the misnomer of anyone being opposed to Boomfest occurring ever began, but yeah, I think it is time to, squash that ugly rumor. I think that if it's a all or nothing, either you have the headliner or you have no community event at all after we had appropriated, which you said 71,000. I hear you guys saying 71,000. I thought we had 30,000 in the community event and then the 12,000 carryover. So
That was the city fund portion of the money in that fund. But we always budget based on what we believe the revenues would be. We always try to go low with the donations. That's why we put that $30,000 amount, because we've always exceeded that number, but we just want to be cautious with what we're estimating. So we're able to appropriate and budget for 71,000 in expenses.
thank you. So I 100% agree with Mr. Horniak that we've strayed so far away from the 4th of July that a lot of people don't even associate it with our Independence Day celebration. And I think going into the 250th, I hope we get back on track. I mean, I understand it falls on a Saturday next year. The 4th of July is actually on a Saturday. So whether we have a large event or we should just have something. We should acknowledge it. We should observe it in some way. I think it's disrespectful. The way that we've strayed so far from it that a lot of people don't even understand that that's what it's supposed to be for and about. And so I think that had it stayed a patriotic 4th of July observance, I think there'd be less question about the cost of it, but as it got further and further away, I think that's what I believe a lot of people started to question, hey, wait, what's this money for? What are we doing here? And there's actually a debate about whether it is for the Independence Day observation or not. But I do agree with Mr. Horniak. I hope we can get that back on track next year for the 250th. I am very concerned about, I'm a bird in the hand versus two in the bush kind of person as far as like, I'm sorry, Nick, let me explain the old people speak to you, the idioms. But if you have, it's what you have to work with versus what you could possibly have. And to play that with city dollars, with general fund dollars, that's hard for me. When I found out that in the past that there have been times where if money's appropriated because entities promised donations and then for whatever reason, I mean, life happens, that they didn't follow through, that the city eats that cost, that eats that promise, because basically the price of the show is the price of the show, and you're out that. But if we have a rain out, no one's gonna get any money, and those bills will still be due. And will those people, I mean, to wait for someone to hope, to hope that they will pay what they promise when the event doesn't take place, I don't know if that's a chance I want to take. So I lean more to play it safe and do the local bands. There's no one, probably maybe, Kathy's not quite, I don't think she's as old as I am, but as far as Little River Band, that's my generation. That's my era. I love their music. It's nothing to do with that. It has to do with the costs of what we have in our hand versus what we could have. And so, yeah, I think I agree with Kathy. I agree with Steve. I agree with Dennis. I agree with Paul. I mean, I think all the points that they made, that I just don't, next year, the sky might be the limit, and we might have we might be able to have a 2 or 3 day music venue or music festival that a stage of that price and size would actually be more in line with having. But I don't know how this works, if you're gonna take it to a vote to move forward it or not, but I do believe that if, in light of the people that are hitting me up for their road condition and the situations they're dealing with on their properties, I find it, unconscionable to wish upon a star on this one. Like, if we've got when I look at the weather forecast for tonight, and this is after working at the German American Festival for well over 30 years and knowing what that stress is of this is, we may not have anybody show up, and we might lose our butts tonight on this. I don't feel comfortable doing that with city funds, so I don't know. I think, you work toward, you start now, and, the fireworks thing, why in the world would we ask the Chamber of Commerce to cover our fireworks when they are an organization that covers multiple communities in our area? I just went to Northwood's celebration, and they said they only had $5,000 in fireworks, but it was a beautiful display. And they do fundraisers all year long to provide the money for those fireworks. So to ask the chamber to pay for the fireworks, then that opens it up to, are they gonna cover everybody's fireworks, that all of the towns that are a part of it, or do we bring those towns in? It doesn't even seem realistic to ask them to pay for our fireworks, and if they can get the donations for their fireworks for our city, why in the world couldn't we get the donations for the fireworks for our city? There's just something that's not adding up with that. And I guess that's all I have to say about that. So, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ackerman. Mr. Mayor?
Just that the chamber's involved in our event, and there's local businesses that are willing to contribute for Oregon fireworks, not for anything that the chamber could do, to them for this event. And they want to expand on that so that they have this event as a fundraiser for themselves. That's why the chamber was involved. As for fixing roads, you're right. If these folks don't come through, the folks that every other time don't come through, the city would be on the line for that money. I believe the risk is very small for that, but still does exist. As for the collection that Mr. Wallensack brought up of $31,000 of us getting, well, the food truck thing, we would get about the $3,000 we would get because they come in regardless. So then we're down to 28,000. It's possible. Bad days, it is definitely possible. But we have a cushion of approximately $8,000 or $9,000. Would we be $8,000 or $9,000 off? Yeah, unlikely, but still possible. We do have several other contributors or people who have made inquiries about donating, which conservatively come up to $4,000 or $5,000, and some other ones that have come forward. So it's still high percentage that we will cover our costs, is all I'm saying. I wouldn't ask, if I didn't think we had a high percentage of covering every bit of the cost, I wouldn't be here asking.
Thank you, Mayor. Council, anything further from council?
Mr. President,
Mr. Drake?
yeah, I got a couple more questions. Is there, why, and I have nothing against Dunn's, actually, I bought my vehicle from Dunn's. Is there a reason why, I know a lot of people like the German-American Festival grounds. Is there any reason why it's not held there anymore?
Mr. Chairman, there's roughly a $10,000, $12,000 cost savings not to have it there. There is an issue when there's rain prior to the event of going in and out of the fields where we had mud issues several years. But the main focal point is we're bringing attention to our town center where we expect to have a theater or amphitheater constructed in the facility where the activities would centralize there. Like I told you, Mike Denman and River Rock, Bill Bosselman are very into this type of event and like to see it grow over there. Greg, Jay, and Andrea Dunn were very gracious to offer that place when I asked them about it, and they said it was a big deal for them, and it went over quite well. There are people. I like the tranquility of Oakshade Grove. It's hard to deny being around the trees. It has, just like you said before, there's some people that like certain things, some people like other things. I've had people speak in favor of both of them. But for us, where the attention would ultimately go would be in our town center area, and we would like to expand on that, and that's where we would have the entertainment district there, and this would be one of the feature events that take place there. And it would be it's important to them, saying that each of the type of businesses they're bringing there will be in on this. And he would go out and solicit them to be part of this event in the future, as well as, like I said, if we get our data center folks, we won't be really arguing over money, or if the money exists. They claim it will definitely be there. So not only is this important to a lot of people in the community, it's important to that industrial area. They see it as featuring the city the way they'd like to envision being here. So it's a little bigger than you can originally imagine about what it all means to the folks that are coming to this community in the industrial sector.
Mr. President?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. President, can I have a follow-up question?
Sure.
Kind of makes me nauseous to even bring it up, but when you mentioned the town center, I can't help but notice when it comes to the houses, Nick-eyed, and I don't know, maybe he's contributing, maybe he's promised some money, and I'm not sure I said his name right. But when he gets a parcel, when he gets a lot for $20,000 and he makes a profit of about $38,000 on each lot, and he's buying them up 6 lots at a time and then selling them to Hovanian, what's he putting into this event? I mean, he's making money hand over fist with our property, and with what, from what I can tell, I don't see what the input on his part is, but what is he contributing? Have you asked him to donate to this? Because he could probably pay for it out of his pocket just on 6 houses.
Mr. Mayor.
That's a tough one. You make a lot of good points there. And I'll tell you, in the time when Nick came forward, we had nothing there. And he said he could get development happening. So what he did do is he got stuff going, and it moved fairly fast after that. They have a little time with song, and I would like to see more production out of him myself, but nevertheless, in a crunch time, we had other developers and other realty companies come forward and chose not to go forward when he did. So in the end, as much as I cringe over something, Beth, I truly do. Everything you said, I thought
Well,
of.
maybe we just need more information about what it actually, when he's, if he's the developer, so he buys low, then the city paid for all the infrastructure. We put in the sewers, the streets, we developed the subdivision. I'm just trying to get my head around what he brings to it, because when I look at all the K. Hovanian home developments, they did not require a middleman to come in and get a healthy profit off of just micro flipping some lots.
What,
And that's maybe isn't the forum for that, but I'm
It-
just curious, when you bring up the town center and all these people that want this event at the town center, then let the people who are making buku bucks off the town center put some money into this event. I think that would be reasonable to expect of them.
I'm gonna talk to Nick. I'm gonna ask him for
Thank you.
stuff.
Thank
What I will say though is that, and I don't expect you to understand the depth of a TIF program yet, but you will. You'll learn that. And we needed to get that going to get our money back through the TIF program. So we had to have some kind of action. Something had to happen when nothing was. And Nick was there. And could we do it over again better? Probably.
Maybe we can adjust it as we move forward.
We were in a desperate mode at the time, and at the time, it wasn't a bad decision.
Mr. President, if I may
Yes.
answer that. And here's where it benefits the city, is speed to construction. So if it was onesie twosies, we wouldn't see the revenue from the TIF district coming in for a long period of time. And when Nick came in and said, hey, I have somebody that can build them quickly. Great, that's what we're looking for, because that's where the city's biggest benefit comes from, is the speed to construction, where then the city does receive the revenues from the TIF district.
But we only make the TIF if they sell, and if they're
No, no,
40,000.
No, they start
Once
as
they're
soon as they
built.
build
It just, if they get built, we get the
They
TIF.
built,
Because
yes.
Hovanian's putting the money into doing the
They're paying
building.
the property
But
tax.
I don't understand when I look into K. Hovanian, they're building all over the place. Somebody, I could own a lot, I could call Hovanian, I could have them come out, build me a house. You didn't, I just don't see where, when we have the Oregon Economic Development Foundation, we have the talent that we have here for negotiating and making deals, why we had to interject a middleman. It just looks like fingers in a pie, where I'm not seeing what he's bringing to it. All I see is houses costing 40 grand more than they need to. So if you're trying to sell the place, you're trying to get bodies in there, people in there, I guess it's catch-22. You get the guy, he costs money, the price of the house goes up, and so then the house is, maybe they'd sell more if they were a little bit cheaper, so maybe as you say, I don't know much, but, moving forward, and I'm sorry, this isn't a venue for that discussion, but when you keep bringing up the town center, well, the people making money on the town center they should be the ones doing this thing that promotes the town center.
Can I
Just a
say,
thought.
I did not say you didn't know much. I do not think that. I said, I don't know that you know the total aspects of how the TIF works, and
Being
you'll
on
learn that.
economic development and finance, if some people would tell me things, I might know more than
Yeah,
I know right now,
all right,
right?
so I'll give you that, but I'm not saying that. I agree with everything you said about it. 100%. I beat myself up over it.
Hit him up, Mike.
Huh?
Hit the guy up. Get your.
I am gonna, I didn't even think it was, because sometimes it's hard.
Yeah, Mr.
I want to
President.
see Little River
I'm gonna stop
Band.
talking about
Get
it.
him
I'm
out there.
I'm
Come on,
gonna stop talking about
Get
it.
him
Yeah,
out there. Come on,
it is,
schmooze.
it's delicate because we still do have a transaction, ongoing transaction with them. So it does make it a little awkward to do that, but it is already a signed contract.
Right.
So there may be a way to do it, but this is the awkwardness of, asking for donations. But
He's a
the-
big shot. He's got some money.
Thank-
At the,
He can write it off.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Mr. Drake, I know you said you had a couple of questions.
Yeah.
And do you still have the one?
I'm sorry, Paul.
Who was that?
No, you asked one question and then, we sort of got off on a little bit, different area.
Yeah, at some point, I don't know who it was, it might have been a school board member I talked to. Is any of this, monies, does it, maybe Melissa would know, does it, some of it have to go to a charitable organization? Just out of curiosity, somebody had told me that and I wasn't sure.
Can you give me a little bit more information?
Just with the, the donations, people donating, I guess, businesses.
So the
There's
city
a
can-
certain amount that should go to a charitable organization.
So the city can receive donations
Okay.
that individuals choose to want to be part of this event. That is totally proper to do. But as Mr. Major had stated, we have to make sure that those donations are appropriate for us to receive, and making sure that the businesses or projects that we have currently going on or that may need to come in front of council, we have to review those to make sure that we can receive them. So can the city receive donations? Yes. We just have to be able to review who those donations are coming from and to ensure that it's something that the city can receive.
Okay, and are all those donations, sounds like it's mostly businesses, is that public record or,
Yes.
okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Drake. Getting back to, we have a couple of citizens who have signed in. Mr. Lambrick, if you would, name and address for the record.
Tom Lambrick, 5238 Seaman Road. It is important to have events that promote our city in a positive way. Mrs. Pollock was right. But, it gets to a point to where how much is too much? And, I understand that you have commitments from businesses that say you're gonna get this money. But, you don't pay bills to cover a handful of IOUs. If you don't have the money now, you don't have the event to the extent you have it. You scale back and you do what you do. You still have your event. Maybe you don't have the headliner. I know there's a lot of people that love the event, but there's a lot of people that don't love $20,000, $40,000, $60,000 more to pay for it. So, and there's no doubt, Mike, you work hard at this, but you know what? You can't do things all by yourself, and then at the last minute, try to say you have a committee to do it. You said several times during the year, this is mine, I do it myself, this is what I do, blah, 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 but that's great. But maybe you need to look at some outside help so you don't fall into those situations, because it is hard to get money when you're a public entity. Private entities can do it a lot better, because you've got ethics you gotta deal with, you've got all kinds of rules that apply to government agencies that don't apply to the rest of the, to private businesses. So maybe you have a committee outside the city that takes care of these kind of things, so they don't fall under those rules.
Thank you, Mr. Lambrick.
So,
Thank you. Laura Davis, if you would, please, name and record, address for the record.
Laura Davis, 5494 Bay Shore Road. Okay, I just hear about the Boomfest. Everybody loves it. We always go. I think it's a great time. But if you don't have the funding, you know, why not just get tribute bands? There's some really good tribute bands out there. We saw an Eagles tribute a couple weeks ago. Excellent. They sound just like the Eagles. There's a great Journey tribute band out there. The casino has tribute bands all the time. We would go more often, but you have to stand for 2 hours, you know? But there are good tribute bands out there that would cost probably a third of what a headliner would cost, or a fourth. I don't know how much they cost, but I think it's just as enjoyable to hear a tribute band than to see maybe 1 or 2 original members of a band do the same songs. And also have the local bands as line up, and then have the tribute band as the headliner. That's my suggestion. And also, I think it should go back to 4th of July. You know, everybody looked forward to it for 4th of July, and here it is, August, and it's not even planned yet. That's another thing. This should be planned a year in advance. The venue should be locked in, the band should be locked in, everything should be locked in a year ahead of time. When it's over, you start for the next year. I just think this is poor planning as far as budgeting the money, as far as getting things lined up. It should all be done way in advance. And so that's one thing. And as far as charging $5, I don't think people would mind paying $5, but, you know, if it was free before, I don't think it should be more than that. Kids should get in free, because families can't afford to pay $5 for all their kids, or shouldn't, because the kids aren't really listening to the music anyway. They're just here because their parents brought them. So, I mean, if we have to pay $5, is not that much. Maybe have a reserved seating section for people who, you know, want to sit in the front, and people they won't crowd in front of them. They have a wristband, they pay maybe $10, or, you know, just a section to make more money, that's the way. Plus, people would get their secure seat. Then have a standing room only section for people like me who's short, and people think they have to stand up to hear the music. It sounds just the same if you're standing or you're sitting. I prefer to sit. So, I mean, have a standing room only section. Maybe they get in free if they stand up for the whole time, you know? But I just think it's more enjoyable to sit down and hear music. I'll plan a year ahead of time. Maybe have a parking shuttle. And move it back to the 4th of July. That was my thing, because I think people look forward to that and the 4th of July. Here it is, it's going to be in August. Okay, people are saying, okay, why have fireworks in August? 4th of July was 2 months ago. You know, and I think what Mr. Horniak said, this should have all been locked in, planned way earlier, and budgeted earlier. I just think it's like flying by the seat of your pants, where, yeah, we're having this party, but we don't know how we're going to pay for it. You know, I think it should be better planning.
Thank you, Mrs. Davis. Mr. Mayor?
Yes. Actually, it was planned a year in advance. The dates were picked in a year in advance. The stage was booked a year in advance. Sound people were, some things came up, and we were originally 2 weeks after the 4th of July. We chose to not be on the 4th of July. A better premium, a lot of things are more available not on the 4th of July, because a lot of people are having events then. And it was our ability to feature the city when it wasn't on the 4th of July. When other towns have their event on the 4th of July, they're able to come to visit us in our city. So we did want it closer, but those venue dates were no longer available for Dunn's or Oak Shade Grove, because I tried both. So there was some scrambling at the end, but all this preparation does take an advance of a year in advance, because there's no way you would get a stage before that. So the planning is there. Like I said, when you're trying to get funding in the public sector, it's totally different than the private sector. You can do that and achieve in the private sector. It is next to impossible to do it in the public sector. Tom Lambert said, if we had committees to do this, we can't even allow that. when we're part of an event. So we're in the process of trying to get other ways of pulling the event off, but it had to start somewhere. So fly by the seat of your pants, yeah, absolutely I did. I have had to do that because it's the only way we could get it and have the event until we are able to get someone else who is willing to do it in the private sector. I'd love to do that. It's just impossible. That's what we're trying to work towards. And if we want to keep a good event, tribute bands, you're right, you could probably get one for, I've checked, $25,000, $20,000. All right, but you still have to have all the other setup work that go with it. So you save some money, but it's not a huge amount. Something about a headliner that brings a certain ring to it. It does definitely do to our big industrial users. It's a big deal to them. So that's why I'm trying to host this for them, for their future, and once they get here, we will be able to secure money a lot sooner because they have a lot of it. And hopefully, you think I enjoy struggling through a whole year of all that goes on pulling this off? It's endless. But I still do it. I still try to make it happen.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Rainier, if you would, please name and address for the record.
Pete Reiner, 2025 West Baywood Drive, Oregon, Ohio.
Thank you.
I concur with the previous two people that come out of the audience and spoke up. However, I'm still waiting on an answer of how much this stuff cost right along the line, and it should be in line. It should be on a piece of paper how much entertainment costs, the rent for the place cost, right down the line. I don't understand, if we've been doing this for so many years, you don't have exact figures for this year. This year it costs a little bit more because of gasoline price, because of our labor cost. Let's get in line. I don't see how anybody can make a informed decision without numbers. And just to throw money at it is just like somebody in divorce court saying, well, for another $40,000, I think you can get rid of her. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor?
Headliner with roll-up costs $55,000, $24,500 for sound and lights. Stage, $12,000. Hotel costs, Nick, 22.
Yeah, for Little River Band, based on their riders, it would be for 11 rooms. It would total $3,300.
$3,300. Did I miss any other costs? We have all those numbers. We definitely know it's good. It will cost us just shy of $107,000.
That's what city labor set up, tear down, police, fire.
I told you before, that's between 11 and 13,000 additional dollars. Yes.
Give or take.
11.
Should be a dollar
take,
amount.
go
Should be a dollar
13,000.
amount.
13,000.
How can, you can't budget stuff at home, say, well, you know, eggs are
Just did.
$4.99.
We budget that for the year.
They're $2.99.
We budgeted all of that, police and fire for the year. We live within the budget and we, and I don't think we exceeded it, did we? No, we lived within that. We did definitely budget everything, every year, almost to the penny.
We've got millions of dollars of acreage of Oregon spent. Why can't you have your fest over there?
Have it where?
Where you spend all the money for this new data center. You got parking. You got the
Parking
road
where?
Back there.
Parking where?
You park in the field.
What's that? Park in the field? Well, why would we park out there when there's no amenities out there and there's no pavement or anything when we got a place that doesn't cost us anything right in the middle of the town center? So we're trying to do something where the action wants to take place.
Last year, you disrupted a lot of those senior living centers too.
They come out, they said that was the best day of their life to us.
Okay.
Okay.
Good luck.
Thanks.
Mr. President,
Mr. Drake?
yeah, I got a question probably for Mrs. Pepora. Sorry, Ms. Pepora, I didn't ask you before this. I'm not trying to blindside you, make you look foolish, because I know you're very smart. Is it legal for the city, because I know you probably remember when we passed when you're allowed to light fireworks off in the city of Oregon. I remember we had multiple meetings on that. So if Boomfest is able to have it on whatever date they want it, if I want to set off a bunch of fireworks in my backyard and a neighbor calls the police, am I going to get in trouble? And I guess the question is what makes the city able to light off fireworks? But if I sit in my backyard, I could get in trouble. Do you understand what I'm saying?
I do. Mr. President, Mr.
Yes.
Drake, the ordinance that was passed by City Council gives permitted dates and times of when fireworks can be displayed. One of those subsections says that it would be in the month of July when the city decides to celebrate its Independence Day. Should this go forward and it's on August 9th, and a new ordinance would have to come to you guys for passage, amending the section to allow the city to be able to display it on a time frame that is a day and time that is not in July. So we would have to amend the ordinance to allow the city to do that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Drake. Council, anything further? Hearing that we don't have anything else. Oh. Just come in and we'll get it. Yeah.
Yeah, this is a great, Bud Graham, I live at 5403 Bay Shore Road. I also have a company called Tesco down the road here, but I think it's a great community event, but I don't think Buddy and the Bayside Rockers are gonna bring the people in.
It's different, buddy.
I appreciate that, I appreciate that. But anyhow, you know, I think, you know, when you look at it, you know, that's what brings the people in as a headliner. I mean, that's gonna help your vendors, that's gonna help your sales, that's gonna help, you know, everybody that's there. It's gonna bring them in, and, you know, it'll add more value to the event itself. You know, I think, you know, the Battle of Bands and things like that's nice, but, you know, it just won't bring the people in like the headliner will. This event, you know, and I give credit to the mayor and, you know, the council and everybody that's, you know, supported it in the past, has been a nice event, it's been a great event, and it's run on a budget. As the mayor said, you know, sometimes, you know, you get people that contribute in a timely fashion, and there's some that hold out, they don't, but if they make that commitment, you know, they should stand by it. You know, I'm here mainly just to let you know that, you know, I saw this on the news that, you know, I heard about it, you know, that, you know, you're working on trying to raise some money, you know, that short some money. You know, we like to see stuff like this from a business standpoint. It may not help me from a sales standpoint, but, you know, I have employees that enjoy, you know, going to Boomfest. You know, I've talked to a lot of them, and you know, I was surprised how many of them attend. So, you know, it is an event that is greatly appreciated by the community. And so, you know, I guess I'm one of those businesses that, you know, decides to just step up and say, you know, we'll commit. I know money is an object here, so up to $5,000. It's the beginning. Hopefully other businesses will follow suit and step forward and help, you know, contribute to this. You know, it's, we have in the past helped in other fashion with providing transportation for the band and things like that, so, you know, at no charge. But I mean, you know, we believe it's a great community event. You know, we're community-minded. You know, we appreciate all that, you know, that you do, the time that you spend to make it happen. And, you know, it's a small token of our appreciation for that, but, you know, we do want to do our share, so.
Thank you, Mr. Graham. At this time, I know that we're looking to probably see what the consensus is of council of how we should move forward. Do we have any kind of, to give the administration their, I don't want to say like a job to do, but to.
Direction.
The direction to moving forward or whatnot, or moving forward with what direction we want them to, we prefer them to go in. So does anybody here have a suggestion? Mr. Mayor?
I was just gonna recrunch a couple numbers. When I listed the numbers before, with the estimation of the 8,000 and the 20,000 being the variables, if Bud Graham put in 5,000, that brings us to 121,000 out of a need for, as Nick said, with some cushion, 110. We do have other contributors for, I think, to say $3,000 or $4,000 is very likely. So we have the estimated income revenue of about 125,000 with a need for 110. The likely, there's a risk, but I think the risk is very small that we couldn't achieve the $108,000 to $110,000 to run it with the estimation of $125,000 coming in. I think we can pull that off. If I think it's worth the risk. It's got everything we do has some risk to it. Anything of any value does. So I do believe that regardless of what happens this year, our ability to attract funds for next year, a little after the first of the year, increases exponentially. We believe in the data center. We believe it's about a 99% chance of happening, data center number one. They were here talking with the folks across the street for data center number two. Most of those folks believe it's a high percentage for data center number two to be coming forward. Spent all day with them. It is our future, and this is part of it.
Okay, give us, or do we need to go to Mr. Roman? What are we asking council to approve? Or what would we like to have council to approve to make this event happen? Mr. Mays?
I would go to Nick first to get the appropriations of what, of the two things he needs, the transfer of funds and the appropriation.
Yes, Mr.
Nick,
Mr.
yes.
Chair. So if we would like to go forward with the headliner, like I said, we would need, we would ask that we go up to 110,000 in appropriations in our community events fund. So that would require us appropriating an extra 39,000 to be spent out of that fund. In order for us to feel comfortable appropriating that amount of money in that fund with the budgeted revenues that we have, with the donations that we feel committed and confident in, plus our estimated revenues to come in, we would ask that an additional 20,000 would be appropriated out of General Fund 101 in order to be transferred into 271, the Community Events Fund, in case these revenues do not come in. So that's what we'd be asking, or if we're given the direction that we don't want to appropriate those funds and approve that we be told that so we know to scale it back. That's the direction we're looking for.
Okay. Give us a second scenario, if you would, of scaling it back.
So as of right now, we have 71,000 appropriated in that fund. We feel more than confident that we will get in all of those funds, and we wouldn't, if we're asking to scale back to that 71,000, we wouldn't need anything else further from council unless we decide to have an expense, if we bumped up the fireworks or something where we spent over 25,000, then we would need to come forward and have that approved through council.
Mr. Roman, that would be without a headliner, correct?
Correct, yeah, if we scaled it back, it would, we
So-
could definitely spend within the 71,000.
Just for sheer numbers of things, again, if we are going to appropriate for a headliner, it'll be an additional 39,000.
That we would need appropriated, correct?
And if it's without a headliner, we don't have to appropriate anything.
At this time, I don't believe so. I mean, we, as of right now, everything that is planned, it does have that headliner in it. So we would have to look at what those costs are with scaling back on the stage and sound and lighting. And there's possibility we would need more than the 71,000, but I believe we could work within that 71,000 if that's what all that is appropriated.
Thank you, Mr. Roman. Greatly appreciate that. Council,
Mr. President,
Ms. Ackerman.
I made this for Nick. If, I know you want something in writing by Friday to have it on the agenda for Monday, but if the mayor, just as Mr. Graham stepped out and said, hey, I'll throw in 5, then, maybe the mayor gets a Hail Mary and somebody steps up, then what do we do? Like have that on the agenda, and then we could always pull it off if he's able to secure something in this 11th hour, before Monday evening?
So in terms of the appropriation out of the general fund, is that what you're talking about?
Well,
Or-
I'm just, we can pull back on that, but we still
Yeah,
would be
well-
taking that risk with the rain, right?
Yeah,
That's still
absolutely,
there.
yeah. We would still be taking some risk with the rain. And just because we authorize the funds to be transferred out of general fund into this community events fund does not mean I have to transfer it. We would only do it if we need the money. And that's where I would prefer that we get that approval now rather than later if the money doesn't come in, because we don't know that it's gonna get approved later on based on how everything goes. So that's why I would ask for that ahead of time, but that doesn't mean we would have to transfer those funds. So even if you passed it Monday night saying, yes, we approve this $20,000, and we get the donations in that covers anything, that $20,000 would stay in the general fund. It would not be transferred over.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Ms. Ackerman.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Horniak.
just to make sure, because I think we're using words specific to how we operate as a city, but just to make sure, maybe I can help clarify this. If I'm mistaken, please advise me. I think to boil it down, we have already, and I'm going to use the word approved, $30,000 of city funds to go towards Boomfest. There is a residual of $12,000 already approved to go towards Boomfest.
Correct.
Okay, so that's $42,000. The $71,000 that we're talking about allocating, so the city is guaranteeing the $71,000. They're asking for an additional allocation of $39,000, which puts the city's guarantee at $110,000. So whether there are donations received to cover that or not, the additional appropriation is to commit the city's fund to paying that if there is a shortfall in receipts of donation. Is that accurate? Because we've only approved $42,000 of city funds to be into this. We're allocating into this fund, assuming we have donations that pay that. But if we don't get the donations, or we go with the headliner and the funds don't come, the city is writing that check. And the additional 20 is to offset the risk of the gate and the alcohol sales if we get what we're gonna get in 30 minutes of a total washout and storm, and we have no proceeds from that. The 20,000 is additional that the city would be required for.
Correct.
So
Yes,
the overall city exposure is roughly 130,000, including the 20. Or am I double dipping the 20?
No, so the additional city exposure would be 62,000. Additional would be 20,000, the total city exposure would be 62,000. If we don't get these donations in ahead of time, or some of it, or most of what we have, I cannot approve to pay invoices.
Okay. So how do we hire a headliner today betting on dollars that we don't know we're going to have until the event, being the 20 and the 8,000 expected liquor
That's what-
revenues. I guess that's
That's
where
what
I'm
that
confused.
20,000 would guarantee, that we have enough to pay the headliner. And then we expect to get these funds to start rolling in as soon as, if we were to go ahead with the headliner, some of these donations would start funneling in immediately.
Okay, but whether the donations come in or don't come in, the city fund's obligation would be the 42,000 already approved and appropriated, and the 20,000 that you would seek, which would offer some protection against offset from the gate and the liquor. So that would commit the city to $62,000. And if we've signed a headliner at 55 and rented the stage, we're in for 90. And if we don't get the donations, who pays the difference?
So if for some reason nothing else came in, yes, we would, and we approved POs and paid invoices, yes, we would be on the hook. But
Thank you.
I would not be willing to issue those POs if we're not getting these donations to come in.
Correct. But if we, again, we're 7 weeks away.
I,
At some point in time, we're going to have to tell a headliner whether they're playing here or not. And we're going to have to enter into a contract. And I'm going to assume that that contract has an exit clause and an exit cost. And at this point, that could be 100%, most likely. So what I'm trying to ascertain is, what is the city's total exposure? Worst case scenario, and again, I'm just trying to be very pragmatic, we don't get a single dollar donation.
if you're saying worst case scenario, it would be the 107,000 if we, but this, it would be 107,000 if.
I
yes, we
understand
went forward with
unlikely,
everything.
but the
Yes.
city's exposure potential is 107,000. So the additional ask is basically for the city funding exposure at the 107,000 if we have no donations. If we receive these 65,000 donations that we're hearing should be there, then the city is only committing the funds which we've already approved and committed.
Yes.
Okay? I don't know if that helped anybody or not, but it helped me, so. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, but there's already like over 14,000 outages in West Toledo. There's already outage out in Reno Beach. I'm just like, everybody, the weather is dicey out there,
It's getting
so.
dicey.
Yeah, I'm like.
There you go.
Yep.
Um,
Oh, tornado
wow.
warning party.
I'm going underneath here.
Okay, where's our tornado shelter?
yeah.
That was a warning, right?
Yeah, it's a tornado.
Okay, go ahead. Mr. Chair, in the events of moving this forward, if I may, I would recommend we support Boomfest. I would recommend we look at the appropriation for Monday. What I would like to see with that is a full expected accounting of costs. And it could be rough round numbers. Cost versus donations we expect, donations we are already assured.
So to move
have
forward with
that.
the,
To move forward with the
headline.
additional request for appropriation.
Does, any objections? Mr. Drake?
No, I was waving.
Oh,
I was
any
waving.
objections? Okay, so we'll move forward with the appropriation. Okay, thank you.
We'll work our ass off.